Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome to everyone for our first session, actually our zero session for our study and our intensive reading of Tafsir of Ibn Juzayy at-Tasheel li-Ulum al-Tanzil. And inshallah today we're going to go plunging straight ahead with our reading, starting with the Isti'adhah. And inshallah this will be after just some very short introductions, which I want to mention before we get started. So first and foremost, something that I want people to understand with me is that our goal really, our higher goal in our study is to appreciate the Qur'an. It is to study the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we don't need to elaborate just now on the importance of that and the reasons for that and many other things which we should have some appreciation of, such as the etiquettes of studying Kalam Allah. But I just want to make this methodological point here that there is a difference between studying the Qur'an and studying Tafsir. So studying Qur'an is the actual goal, and it lies behind what we are doing. And the Tafsir of Ibn Juzayy or any other Tafsir is a means by which our Muslim scholars have studied the Qur'an and made its study available to us. So when we are studying this, we are studying the words of somebody who is helping us to study the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we bear that in mind, we can appreciate where Tafsir fits in. Tafsir is the main part of Islamic scholarship that is about looking at the Qur'an through the lens of its meanings. And in fact, there are other types of works and books that have been written around the meanings of the Qur'an, but Tafsir is the catch-all genre in which we get all these different aspects of meaning and where it intersects with other aspects of the Islamic sciences. And that's why it's often emphasized that in order to appreciate Tafsir, you have to study all the Islamic sciences, not least, of course, being the Arabic language itself, and then, of course, the sciences of the Qur'an, Ulum al-Qur'an, and then even as we're going to see, theology, ilm al-kalam, ilm al-tawheed, however you want to call it, and the study of hadith, the study of fiqh and usul al-fiqh, and numerous other branches of Islamic knowledge and types of ma'arif, fields and disciplines which the Islamic scholars were engaging in. So just to conceptualize that we are studying the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but our focus in this particular course is going to be through studying one particular tafsir, which is the tafsir of Ibn Juzayy. I want to say that if you were to come to me to study tafsir and we had more time or we were doing it in a different way, I would take a much slower approach. There are certain things I believe about how tafsir should be taught that I would implement differently in a different kind of setting. What we're doing here is something very particular. It is not what I would call the ideal mode of studying the Qur'an, nor is it the ideal mode of studying tafsir, but it is a mode which will serve a purpose for me and also, I hope, for all of you, and something that we'll benefit from. All I want to do is just to underline here that I'm not suggesting at all that this is the way to teach tafsir or the ideal or the best way to teach tafsir. It's just a way that we can, for example, get through a work of tafsir in a quick manner, perhaps as a kind of introductory approach before you go on to study longer tafsirs thereafter. That's one way in which it can benefit you. Or you're someone who has done a decent study of tafsir before and now you want to actually have a kind of roundup or a kind of overview, or what can we call it, a revision. Or you haven't studied this particular book of tafsir, and this applies to me, by the way, I may shock you here, but the tafsir of Ibn Juzayy is one that is new to me, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. So if you were hoping to come to someone who is an expert in Ibn Juzayy's tafsir in particular, then unfortunately I will disappoint you in that. Alhamdulillah, I do have decent studies in tafsir and ability to read tafsir, which will come through bi'idhnillah for you. But there are people, I'm sure, who are doing this course who are much more familiar than me with the tafsir of Ibn Juzayy in particular. I know some people have read it several times at least, And indeed, I know that there are people who signed up to this course who are more knowledgeable than me in numerous other fields as well. So it's a great honor to have you with me, wherever you are and whatever level you find yourself on. And I hope that you will benefit. So why have we picked the Tafsir of Ibn Juzayy in particular? I have my reasons, which are not necessarily the same as the reasons that make it suitable to you. My reasons go back to the fact that I've been asked to look over a draft translation of this tafsir. Therefore, this course gives me a chance to look closely at it and to have a motivation to keep going and plowing through it in a quick manner. And at the same time, having lots of people alongside me means that you might pick up on things and catch things which I would otherwise perhaps miss. Moreover, I think this will provide a really excellent window for all of you into some issues around Qur'an translation and tafsir translation. As you know, I have some experience in both of these things. Inshallah, that will come through. And I hope that some of you will actually go on to work in these fields and to translate tafsirs, because at the moment it's quite a lonely field and a lonely specialism. I'm not going to explain at length the format of these lessons. We'll just allow that to speak for itself and to demonstrate itself. And more than that, we will also be ready to tweak that, that format once we see how well it goes. So if we find that we're going too fast, too slow, I'm going to do my best to strike the balance that's going to work for us. Speed is definitely one of the important factors in this course. I am trying to get through the whole of this tafsir in a 6-month period, although that 6 month maybe is split up a little bit. But that means covering 10 juz, 10 ajza in the first 2 months. And that means covering around 5 pages of the Mus'haf, of the standard Medina Mus'haf, let's say, every session. So that's very ambitious. That corresponds typically to around 20 pages of the printed tafsir, if we're talking about the Dar Taiba edition. So that is a lot to get through. We're going to be helped by an audio recording. Certainly we're going to start off with this and see how well it works for us. We're going to be able to listen to this recording, which has been done by a Sheikh, if I remember correctly, Amr al-Basati. So we're going to listen to that. And I'm going to pause and I'm going to comment and explain on anything that I feel really needs it. And in particular, on issues about the translation of this tafsir. So I'm assuming, of course, as we've said before, that everyone participating here has got enough strength in Arabic that they're not going to be tripping up over vocab that comes up, unless it's something that's particularly tricky, in which case I hopefully will recognize that and help to shed light on it. And the translation that we're going to look at will also help to make those things so much easier. But we want to be able to focus on what has gone right in the translation, what kind of things would be worthy of improving in the translation, and that will come through as we go along. And there may even be things in the audio recording that we need to comment on, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now in order to show you some things that we need to look at. And the first, of course, is the book itself. This is the Dar Taiba edition. I'm assuming they say Taiba, maybe they say Taiba. I think that both are acceptable as one of the names of Medina. This edition, of course, we have, Taiba, there you go. We have recommended to you, and some of you managed to get copies of it. It is considered to be the best edition. I don't want to go into this issue, but something that I emphasized to you was that it doesn't matter which edition you have. The whole purpose of reading with a teacher is to catch mistakes, and then you're able to correct whatever edition that you have. So don't worry about that. You're not under any pressure to get this edition. If you are struggling with you don't have a physical copy of the book, then by all means make use of the PDFs that are available. And you will see some useful introductions here. But very importantly, Ibn Juzayy himself, rahmatullahi alayhi, has given some very important introductions to his tafsir. So if you were to look from page 62, after after his some opening words, then he's got this set of what is overall is two muqaddimas, two introductions. So the first of these is, we can say, in usul al-tafsir. So there's 12 abwab in this introduction. All this is very important and it's worthwhile to study, but it would not fit into our time scale to get into that, because if I'm reading with you usul al-tafsir, I would be commenting far more than I will be on the actual tafsir. So maybe that's something that we could come back to at a later juncture, but for now we're going to pass over it. And by all means, you are invited to have a look at or listen to some commentary that's been done on it. Sheikh Musa'ad al-Tayyar, for example, has a book explaining the introductions of Ibn Juzayy. The second introduction that he has is actually from page 124. We have, as he calls it, fi tafsir ma'ani al-lughat, which is basically what we would call Gharib al-Qur'an, and then he's got under each letter a number of words, and he's given the meaning or the meanings of those words. This is a very useful thing in order to understand his whole tafsir, because there may be things that he doesn't repeat the explanation of when he's actually in the thick of the tafsir, because he's actually explained those words here. So some correspondence between the introductions and the main text or the main body of the tafsir needs to be looked at, and that would affect translation as well. But it's just something, again, that would not be the best use of our time together to focus on. So I'm going to go straight ahead to page 239. Again, that's the page numbering in this edition, volume 1, page 239. If you're using another edition, you'll have to find the page for yourself. For most of the time, I'm not going to use the PDF. I'm going to use a digital edition, because this one is easier for me to sort of highlight as I go along. So we might find some inconsistencies between this digital text and the printed edition, in which case, if I don't notice it, maybe one of you can flag that up with me as we go along, and we can make sure that we are noticing any issues in the text. But because the Isti'adhah part is not on the digital edition, which is, I'm using Al-Bahith Al-Qur'ani, which is furqan.co, the website, we will use the book for this part. So what I'm going to do is play Sheikh Amar's recording. We're going to listen. While I'm listening, I'm also going to be looking at this translation draft, which is on the left of the screen. So this has been done by Aisha Bewley, a very respected, well-known translator, prolific translator, has done numerous works, including in Tafsir. She has translated Tafsir al-Jalalain. Before, she has translated parts of Tafsir al-Qurtubi and is still working on that, as far as I understand. She and her husband translated the Qur'an itself, and they did that according to the Warsh narration. And she has numerous other works. And so this is not her first, first go at translation. But for me, I'm going to be looking at a number of things. Number one, I'm going to be looking at accuracy, because this has already been edited, again, by an experienced editor, Abdul Samad Clark. And when we look at this, we're going to be looking at it almost as a final stage to see, is this now at a stage where it's ready to be in the hands of the ordinary reader? Because I want us to look not only at the accuracy, but also its accessibility. There could be things sometimes that need a fresh eye. We need to think about the type of person who's going to be reading this, an ordinary reader, typically a Muslim reader. Are they going to understand things as they have been presented, or do we need to add some more explanatory notes? Do we need to clarify something in the wording? We're going to see this as we go through, inshallah. So, Bismillah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الهادي الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. بعد هذا هو مجلسنا العاشر من مجالس سماع كتاب التسهيل لعلوم التنزيل للإمام أبي القاسم محمد بن جزي الكلبي رحمه الله تعالى، يقرأه عليكم عمرو البساطي. يقول رحمه الله: الكلام على الاستعاذة فيه 10 فوائد من فنون مختلفة. الأولى: لفظ التعوذ على 5 أوجه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، وهو المروي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والمختار عند القراء. وأعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم، وهو مروي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأعوذ بالله العظيم من الشيطان الرجيم، وأعوذ بالله القوي من الشيطان الغوي، وأعوذ بالله المجيد من الشيطان المريد، وهي محدثة. الثانية: يؤمر القارئ بالاستعاذة قبل.
So pause here for a moment. What we have just heard is that there are 5 different wordings of the Isti'adhah, right? And then he has said after number 1, and he has said after 2, that they are narrated. وهو المروي وهو مروي. Okay, and the first one is preferred and you know is taken as the standard by the reciters. Okay, and then he has said regarding these 3, وهي محدثة. Now in the translation it says here there first the wording of seeking refuge is 5 forms, and it says after the first one, which is narrated from the Prophet, and the second one it does not say so. What was happened here is that we have a different order, don't we? Because it says here, and these 3 are all originated and innovated, and then we've got the 5th one here, which is the second one in our text. And I seek refuge with Allah, the all-hearing, from the all-knowing, from Shaitaan, the accursed, and this too is related from the Prophet. Okay, so what I presume here, and some of you might be able to confirm this from your editions, is that we have different copies of Ibn Juzay's text in which they are ordered in different ways. So there's no harm in this. The translators will have followed a particular version of the text, and I'm not sure which one it is, but our one is considered to be the strongest tahqiq of the text. So there's no reason for me to intervene here to correct anything. In terms of the wording of the translation, also nothing stood out to me as being a problem. Always there are going to be things that one translator has different choices from another translator. You know, so I wouldn't use the word vast for al-azim, but if that's what the translator has chosen, then I have no special need to object to it, as long as there's consistency in the translation. Okay, so let's carry on with the second فائدة.
سواء ابتدأ أول سورة أو جزء سورة، والأمر بذلك على الندب. الثالثة: يجهر بالاستعاذة عند الجمهور وهو المختار.
So this is mentioned here that it would be a person is expected to do it, is ordered to do it before a surah or while commencing inside a surah. Okay, so this is fine. So something he is called upon to do. Okay. وَالْأَمْرُ بِذَلِكَ عَلَى النَّدْبِ. So as something he is called upon to do, as distinct from something he is obliged to do. I'm going to just highlight this in a color, just to say that maybe this is unnecessarily wordy, because you can just maybe insert here is ordered by way of recommendation, something like this. But it's something that I will consider when I have a clearer mind, an editing mind, because sticking to the exact form in which he has said it, we have to decide whether that adds to clarity or whether it perhaps takes away from clarity. So let's see the third. The third thing is to pronounce it aloud.
إخفاء عن حمزة ونافع. الرابعة: لا يتعوذ في الصلاة عند مالك، ويتعوذ في أول ركعة عند الشافعي وأبي حنيفة وفي كل ركعة عند قوم.
So then he's going to get into some difference of opinion after talking about the prince and seeking refuge aloud. Silently is related by Hamza and Nafi'. Okay. And then whether it's recited in the prayer. And this is regarding, reciting this formula. Okay. So I would perhaps reconsider this, because if you're reading it with maybe, hopefully people have got the right mindset when they're reading, but the point here is not about seeking refuge from Shaitan, but it's about saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, or one of the other formulas. Okay, so one does not pronounce the formula of refuge, for example, would perhaps be a clearer way of expressing this point. لا يتعوذ في الصلاة عند مالك, according to Malik, yes. And then in Shafi'i and Abu Hanifa, you do so in the first rak'ah. Okay. And according to some other people, one does so in every rak'ah. And the qawmin, okay. And then he talks about the proof or the evidence which is relied upon by the various scholars.
مالك عمل أهل المدينة وحجة غيره قول الله تعالى فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وذلك يعم الصلاة وغيرها. الخامسة إنما جاء أعوذ بالمضارع دون الماضي لأن معنى الاستعاذة لا يتعلق إلا بالمستقبل لأنها كالدعاء، وإنما جاء بهمزة المتكلم وحده مشاكلة للأمر به في قوله تعالى فاستعذ.
Okay, let's take a pause to have a look carefully at this translation. Okay, so why is a'udhu in the mudari'? Because لأن معنى الاستعاذة لا يتعلق إلا بالمستقبل. It has to be referring to something that's about to happen. Okay, rather than I have sought refuge. Okay, the meaning of the active verb is not going to do anything but the future. As is supplication. As is supplication, I probably will change this because لأنها كالدعاء, because it is like a supplication, or because it functionally is a supplication, but it is like supplication. Because it's not a direct supplication that oh Allah give me refuge, but it's I seek refuge or I take refuge. بهمز المتكلم وحده, why is it in this singular, I guess is the point here. It is only narrated with the hamza of the first person singular. Right, good. So they've included this point to conform with the command in his word fasta'idh, which is in the singular.
السادسة الشيطان يحتمل أن يراد به الجنس فتكون الاستعاذة من جميع الشياطين أو العهد فالاستعاذة من إبليس.
Okay, so shaitan, the word shaitan itself could refer to the devils. Okay, so the genus, the jins. So that the act of seeking refuge will be from all shaitans. Then it's questionable whether there should be a capital S here, because it is not a proper name anymore, but it's referring to devils. Or it can be specific so that the act of seeking refuge would be from Iblis. No. The point is that this, although he's not said this expressly, this is a point to do with the al. Is it the al denoting genus, al lil jins, al lil ahd? Okay, so the point is here, does it mean the devil, which is Iblis? But I think the translation carries the meaning fine, and we don't have to insert something about the very specific kind of grammatical issue here. What is the origin of the word shaitan?
وهو من شطن إذا بعد فالنون أصلية والياء زائدة ووزنه فيعال وقيل من شاط إذا هاج فالنون زائدة والياء أصلية ووزنه فعلان وإن سم.
So there's two opinions here, but it seems that the first one is his preferred one because he says it is derived from shatana, so in which case it is the ya which is additional. Far away, far from the mercy of Allah, since he became far away. No, there's sort of, this is doubled up here. I don't know why this is said twice. It is derived from shatana, he became far away, far from the mercy of Allah. Because in the text, shatana idha ba'uda, there's no need to have this twice. In this case, letter noon is one of the root letters, and the ya is extra. Its scale is fay'al, is wazn. Right. It has also been said this derivation is from shata. It burned or flared up since he became stirred up. So the noon is extra, the ya is original, then it's fa'lan. Okay. وَإِن سَمَّيْتَ بِهِ, if you employ it as a name, it is not declined. لَمْ يَنصَرِفْ عَلَى الثَّانِي, according to the latter form. I wouldn't say it's the latter form. Well, okay, according to the latter form is fine, because the point is that if you take the second opinion, then on this form, it would have to be غير منصرف as an alam.
به لم ينصرف على الثاني لزيادة الألف والنون وانصرف على الأول.
Okay, so then we go on to the seventh فائدة.
السابعة الرجيم فاعل بمعنى مفعول ويحتمل معنيين أن يكون بمعنى لعين وطريد وهذا يناسب إبليس لقوله فإنك رجيم وأن يكون من الرجم بالنجوم وهذا يناسب الجنس لقوله وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين
والأول أظهر. So it feels like something is missing then from the translation, right? فعيل meaning of a passive participle مفعول, accursed or driven away, expelled, right? لعين وطريد. And then there's something missing because this is he says it, this fits Iblis as an individual as such. لقوله فإنك رجيم, right? So that needs to be cited as well. It could be that it's missing from the edition that they used, right? وأن يكون من الرجم بالنجوم, and then also that little sort of gloss and explanation is missing. And then we have, and this latter fits his saying. I see. So I think that this was missing from the text of the translator, and they assumed that the explanation is of the word tarid rather than of ar-rajm bin nujum, as in to be struck, pelted by stones, which fits this ayah, which is cited here from Surah Al-Mulk. Right? So this is something that we'll have to also fill in using the text that we're using. Okay.
أول أظهر. الثامنة من استعاذ بالله صادقا أعاذه فعليك بالصدق ألا ترى امرأة عمران لما أعاذت مريم وذريتها عصمها الله ففي الحديث الصحيح أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ما من مولود إلا نخسه الشيطان فيستهل صارخا إلا ابن مريم وأمه. التاسعة الشيطان.
So this is more of a kind of spiritual fa'idah which is provided here. The wife of Imran, when she sought refuge for Maryam and her descendants, then Allah protected her. Okay. Or gave her refuge, you know, would be you know, the more direct, you know, if to mirror the expression that's used in the start of the statement. it would make sense to mirror it, because she sought refuge from Maryam, then Allah granted her refuge. However, yeah, here he's used a different word, so fair enough. I'll be thinking aloud with you, by the way. Don't think that I'm coming here with a pre-packaged answer. I'm doing this as a work as a work process, and you are sharing with me in the work process, or you're watching me at work, and I might argue and debate with myself. If we had a very small number of students or participants, we would be able to argue and debate amongst ourselves, but because there are a lot, so it's not possible to open it up quite as I would like. But you know, you can hear me debate myself, and inshallah that could be sufficient. Then he's mentioned this hadith, narrated the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shaitan pricks every child born so that he cries except for the son of Maryam and his mother. Okay. So they've just put it here in, you know, as like this, Muslim, and they have not put it in the footnote, which is fine. According to the edited text, it's also in Al-Bukhari. So maybe you should say Bukhari and Muslim. But there's nothing wrong with just citing one source, of course. التاسعة الشيطان. Okay, we'll let him read.
حذر الله منه إذ لا مطمع في زوال عاديته وهو يجري من ابن آدم مجرى الدم فيأمره أولا بالكفر ويشككه في الإيمان فإن قدر عليه وإلا أمره بالمعاصي فإن أطاعه وإلا ثبطه عن الطاعة فإن سلم من ذلك أفسدها عليه بالرياء والعجب.
Okay, and I was scanning the translation as we listen to that. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. There is a nice turn of phrase here in the translation. If he's able to, then that is that. Because that's necessary as a turn of phrase in English, something of this nature. Okay. But involving him in showing off and conceit. Okay, 10.
العاشرة القواطع عن الله أربعة الشيطان والنفس والدنيا والخلق فعلاج الشيطان بالاستعاذة منه والمخالفة له وعلاج النفس بالقهر وعلاج الدنيا بالزهد وعلاج الخلق بالانقباض والعزلة. الكلام على البسملة فيه 10 فوائد. الأولى ليست البسملة عند مالك بآية من الفاتحة ولا من غيرها إلا من النمل خاصة وهي عند الشافعي آية من الفاتحة وعند ابن عباس آية من كل سورة.
So this is a famous issue of khilaf as to the status of the Basmalah. You know, everyone believes in the Basmalah. It's just a question of what do you believe that it is. Is it an ayah? If it is an ayah, then where does the ayah belong? Is it one of the ayahs of the Fatiha? Is it sort of floating before the Fatiha and before every surah, with the famous exception of the Tawbah, of course. And in one place, they all, of course, agree that it is within the ayah, which is Surah 27, verse 30. So I think this should definitely be, you know, referenced properly, because you can't just say specifically in An-Naml, the ant, because readers will not generally know that. So there's difference of opinion amongst the ulama, and it's not a huge issue, but it has knock-on effects on certain other things, which, like many things, I will simply tell you, you can investigate further, you can read, and you can ask ulama, and you know, because we wouldn't have time to expand on all of these things beyond what Ibn Juzayy has said and beyond what feels necessary for us.
فحجة مالك ما ورد في الحديث الصحيح أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أنزلت علي سورة ليس في التوراة ولا في الإنجيل ولا في الفرقان مثلها ثم قال الحمد لله رب العالمين ولم يذكر البسملة وكذلك ما ورد في الحديث الصحيح إن الله يقول قسمت الصلاة بيني وبين عبدي نصفين يقول العبد الحمد لله رب العالمين فبدأ بهذا دون البسملة.
Okay. The text said Al-Furqan, so I think that they should not simply just write the Qur'an, although the Furqan is referring to the Qur'an. But I think that should be kept as Al-Furqan. Secondly, if you do want to, an expanded discussion of this, then of course we have the great exegesis, Tafsir al-Razi, does have a very extended discussion from a Shafi'i point of view. Imam al-Razi is a Shafi'i scholar. So if you have the great exegesis volume 1, as you probably know, your brother here has translated it. So I can vouch for the translation as far as I'm able to do so. And there's detailed evidences of both sides and some help in the footnotes towards further resources. So there's Malik's point of view and then Shafi'i's point of view.
وحجة الشافعي ما ورد في الحديث أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقرأ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. وحجة ابن عباس ثبوت البسملة مع كل سورة في المصحف. الثانية إذا ابتدأ.
So we're assuming here that the reader knows what the Mus'haf is, which may be a reasonable assumption, but I think that a fair number of English readers might not know that, unless this came up earlier in the book and was explained in the introductions or something like this. It's very possible that it was explained in the introductions. Still, some people might start reading here, so I would just put a small explanatory note about what is the Mus'haf.
أول سورة بسملة إلا براءة وسنذكر علة سقوطها من براءة في موضعه.
Now, Bara'a is not called Al-Bara'a. So, At-Tawbah or Surah Bara'a, because, I mean, it could be called Al-Bara'a. I don't know if maybe some ulama have just called it that way, but certainly in the text we just heard, it is called Bara'a, because that's the first word. Okay, just like we say Surah Al-Mu'minun, because قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. We don't say Surah Al-Mu'minin. Could say, and maybe some have said, but the standard is say Surah Al-Mu'minun, for example. Right. We'll mention the reason. Okay, he's saying.
وإذا ابتدأت جزء سورة فأنت مخير بين البسملة وتركها عند أبي عمرو الداني وتترك البسملة عند غيره وإذا أتممت سورة وابتدأت أخرى فاختلف القراء في البسملة وتركها.
Okay, so he's summarized an issue related to the recitation. Do you pronounce the Basmalah in the beginning of the surah? What about in the middle of the surah? Okay, so Bara'a, he's going to mention this in its place, of course. We should mention that it's 9. Okay, I'll see later how do they mention this. But of course, then a person can look up his tafsir of surah number 9. Inshallah, we will mention the reason for being dropped. If you begin to recite a part of the surah, you have the choice between reciting the Basmalah or leaving it out. Others say to leave out the Basmalah. If you complete one surah and begin another, then the reciters differ as to the Basmalah. Okay.
الثالثة لا يبسمل في الصلاة عند مالك ويبسمل عند الشافعي جهرا في الجهر وسرا في السر وعند أبي حنيفة سرا في الجهر والسر.
I would assume that the reading of this text should be لا يبسمل as a passive voice, as in one does not do so, or it is not the Basmalah is not pronounced. But there's no big deal in reading it in the active voice. It's not recited in prayer. Yeah, it's translated according to the passive voice. In the prayer according to Malik, but according to Shafi'i, it's said aloud in prayers which are recited aloud, and secretly in prayers in which the Qur'an is recited secretly. Secretly is a slightly funny word, but we mean quietly. But of course, the word sir means secret, but do we want to say that we're praying secretly? I'm going to put a little mark on that so we can consider whether it's an appropriate word. Maybe there's some issue with it. According to Abu Hanifa, it's recited secretly in both types of prayer. Like you're not trying to, it's not like you're keeping it secret from others, it's just you're not doing it aloud. Malik's argument. Okay.
فحجة مالك من وجهين أحدهما أنها ليست عنده آية من الفاتحة حسب ما ذكرنا والآخر الحديث الصحيح عن أنس رضي الله عنه أنه قال: صليت خلف رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأبي بكر وعمر وعثمان فكانوا يفتتحون بي الحمد لله رب العالمين، لا يذكرون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم في أول الفاتحة ولا في آخرها.
Now, let's have a look at this text. فكانوا يفتتحون بالحمد لله رب العالمين. So the most obvious meaning is they used to start the prayer. Now we're assuming here after saying Allahu Akbar, nothing was heard before they said Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Because this is the point, the operative point here is not is it part of the Fatiha or not, but is it recited in prayer or not. So I would not say in the translation as they did here, and they used to begin the Fatiha with praise be to Allah, because I think that's sort of going to a different point or a different direction. But then the rest of the text is important as well. لا يذكرون, is this part of the quote from Anas? They would not mention Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim في أول الفاتحة ولا في آخرها. Okay, not mentioning at the beginning of it. So, I mean, there's an argument for having the Fatiha there, what I was just disputing. But I think that there could be some importance in maintaining the structure of what he said. Wallahu a'lam. Not at the end of it. And then there's a nice explanatory note here they've added here in the brackets, because you would wonder, why would you have Fatiha? Why would you have Bismillah at the end of the Fatiha? I.e., they wouldn't say after the Fatiha before the following surah. So that's good that they've added that. I would, to be honest, stick that in a footnote. I don't know if there's some issue with what they want to put in footnotes or not in footnotes. But I think that should go there. Why not?
وحجة الشافعي من وجهين، أحدهما أن البسملة عنده آية من الفاتحة، والآخر ما ورد في الحديث من قراءتها حسب ما ذكرناه. الرابعة كانوا يكتبون بسمك اللهم حتى نزل بسم الله مجريها فكتبوا بسم الله حتى نزل أو ادعوا الرحمن فكتبوا بسم الله الرحمن حتى نزل إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فكتبوها.
I'm sorry the audio skipped. I might have done that by mistake. It might have been my finger. Right. So in this narration, which is mentioned also in the Great Exegesis, by the way, it is said that they used to say Bismika Allahumma, they used to write that, and then these different parts were revealed, which then successively gave them the structure of the Basmalah as we know it now, which is a kind of problematic narration in terms of its meaning. But what's missing, I think, from the translation is the transliteration. I think it has to be given. They used to write Bismika Allahumma. I think the transliteration is needed. So I'm going to put here in the footnote, add transliteration into the text, yeah? Okay, and maybe some further notes. They've said something here. Now the footnote says here, the Basmalah was revealed in the Qur'an in the verse where Allah quotes Bilqis as reading aloud the letter which came from Sulaiman. It is highly doubtful that this was the first occurrence in which the Fatiha, the Basmalah was revealed. I find that very unlikely. But that is the import of this narration. Ibn Juzayy seems to quote it without any comment or any problem with it. and also even the editors of this text have not expressed any problem with it. It's an assertion, really, but not without its problems. I think it's probably obvious why I'm saying it's problematic. It's hard to imagine that the surahs were being revealed without Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim until Surat An-Naml. And there's also issues in the order of these things. Anyway, we won't get into it, but just don't take that as gospel, or take it as gospel, but not Qur'an.
وحذفت الألف من بسم الله لكثرة الاستعمال. الخامس.
Okay, so that's that's really, although it's not mentioned under the same fa'idah, and it's a different point. And it's kind of strange that it's mentioned here in the same point. It's just because of how they used to write it. The orthographic denoting of the particle ba together with the noun ism should be bi ismi, however the alif has been dropped due to the reason mentioned. Fine, they've explained it.
الباء من بسم الله متعلقة باسم محذوف عند البصريين والتقدير ابتدائي كائن بسم الله فموضعها رفع، وعند الكوفيين تتعلق بفعل تقديره أبدأ أو أتلو فموضعها نصب وينبغي أن يقدر متأخرا لوجهين.
Right, so this is the issue of when you say Bismillah, is there a noun implied here in the sentence? For example, my commencement is in the name of God. Or is there a verb implied, such as I commence in the name of God? And then should this kind of hypothesized or this implied expression be thought of as coming after the words Bismillah, or should it be thought of as coming before? So he is saying here, according to the Basrans, the ba is attached to a concealed noun, and what is elided is beginning is my beginning, or let's say my commencement is in the name of God. And even then I would not say like this should be in quotes, because the whole point is it forms a sentence now. My beginning is in the name of God. And then its situation is that it is in the nominative case. I think that's overwording. Then in that case, and then it is in the nominative case, and thus it is in the nominative case. This is simpler and gets to the point. According to the Kufan grammarians, well, why did we not say grammarians before then? Why don't we say the Basran grammarians, and then according to the Kufans? Because if you were making the point that you're talking about two grammatical schools, then it should be made earlier. It is attached to a concealed verb, which is understood as I begin in the name of God. My beginning doesn't sound quite right to me, so I would change it to something like my commencement. I begin or I commence. I'm going to do that now. I won't always edit because it's quite hard to talk and edit and think and breathe at the same time. Okay, so you caught the deliberate mistake, right? So I commence in the name of Allah, or I recite, so that it is in the accusative. Fine. So this is not very clear in English anyway. There's not much you can do, and that's one of the things that we're going to notice as we go through. Tafsir is an Arabic-based science, and when we try to translate tafsir, what we're doing is fundamentally strange. We're interfering in an Arabic conversation about Arabic words, an Arabic explanation of an Arabic revealed text, and to translate that explanation sometimes results in weird stuff. Not saying don't do it. It is, after all, my job to translate tafsir, but I have to recognize that it's a strange game. And you can't expect that it's always going to be clear to the reader if they don't have a familiarity with these grammatical terms. We just have to do our best to give them something that they can appreciate. So then the verb understood This is now continuation of the Kufan opinion. Or not necessarily, because we're going to see in the examples, Bismillahi majreha. Majreha is a noun. So I would say that he's actually saying it, i.e. the noun or verb, understood. I don't think that he's saying that this applies only to the verb, nor has he actually taken a position on which one is the correct approach.
أحدهما إفادة الحصر والاختصاص، والآخر تقديم اسم الله اعتناء كما قدم في بسم الله مجريها. السادسة الاسم مشتق من السمو عند البصريين فلامه واو محذوفة، وعند الكوفة.
Let me just check what he said here. Mean restriction singular, it is yes, okay. The other is to bring the name of Allah forward out of respect. Okay. So where does the word ism come from?
إن مشتق من السمة وهي العلامة ففاؤه واو محذوفة. ودليل البصريين التصغير والتكسير لأنهما يردان الكلمات إلى أصولها. فقول العربي أسماء وسمي دليل على أن الفاء هي السين وأن اللام حرف علة. وقول الكوفيين أظهر في المعنى لأن الاسم علامة على المسمى.
So having scanned the translation, it seems fine. Okay, this is a tricky thing. We're talking about derivation of words. Is it from sumu or is it from sima? And then we've seen the arguments on both sides and the evidences. Some are sort of linguistic evidences, some are semantic evidences on the other side. Seems to be fine. Okay. قولك Allah. You're saying Allah. I don't think this is going to be a nice translation. We're going to see.
سابعة قولك الله اسم مرتجل جامد والألف واللام فيه لازمة لا للتعريف. وقيل إنه مشتق من التأله وهو التعبد، وقيل من الولهان وهي الحيرة لتحير العقول في شأنه.
Okay, so I'm going to fix walahan straight away. And that is how it is in our printed text as well. And it sounds right, and I believe. Right, so is the name Allah derived from anything? So, you know, qawluka, I think translated directly as you're saying Allah, it just doesn't come through in translation. It should be something like the word Allah, you know, or the utterance. Yeah. Is an extemporaneous substantive name. Okay. Let me try to remind myself what extemporaneous means. Okay, murtajal, impromptu. I don't think that's a good translation for, if maybe I can look up the word extemporaneous to see if it could work. But I think we're going to change this to coined. Okay, which sometimes other word could be used for coined, like mawdu', but I think that murtajal here has this implication. Jamidun, as in non-derived. Jamid ghair mushtaq, substantive name. Again, I'm not sure. I mean, substantive name, again, I will have to look it up to see whether maybe that was a good word. I don't want to just judge things as being not a good choice. Maybe it is, but I'm going to suggest that this is going to change to non-derived. In other words, it's a proper name. But being a proper name is something that could still mean it's mushtaq from something and then it becomes an alam. So that's not the point. Is whether it's derived from something or coined fresh. والألف واللام فيه لازمة لا للتعريف. Okay, intrinsic part of the name, not for the purpose of making it a definite noun. Good, this is explained well in the translation. Another opinion from ta'alluh, which is ta'abbud or devotion, worship. Or walahan, passionately in love. وهي الحيرة, bewilderment, لتحير العقول في شأنه. Now, this is one of the funny things that happens in translating tafsir, although we're not even in the thick of the tafsir yet. But you can see here, he's saying that it's from walahan because that's the root that is connected potentially with the word Allah. And then he's explained that word in Arabic. Al-walahan meaning hayra. So it is a bit strange to translate both words. Not wrong, but just we should note that it's a funny quirk of when we're trying to translate a discussion that's happening in tafsir. It has been said that it's from walahan, passionate in love, which means hayra, bewilderment. This needs a second look. Okay, and I won't elaborate for now why, but we'll see more examples of it in the due course as we go through tafsir. Or its root is ilah.
وقيل أصله إله من غير ألف ولام ثم حذفت الهمزة من أوله على غير قياس ثم أدخلت الألف واللام عليه وقيل أصله الإله بالألف واللام ثم حذفت الهمزة ونقلت حركتها إلى اللام كما تنقل في الأرض وشبهه فاجزم على مان فأدغمت إحداهما في الأخرى.
No. It has been said that it comes from the word ilah. This is a very common opinion, of course, like many people believe in, many people insist on it actually, that Allah just means the God. So they're taking that from one of the opinions about derivation. Again, you can find much more on this in the great exegesis. I do recommend it. It's actually because it's a really good read, and this part in particular where he talks about the derivation of the name Allah is actually one of the most spiritually exhilarating sections of the book. A God, that which is worshipped without alif and lam, from which the hamza is removed without analogy. I think this is not a nice way to translate what does he say here? على غير قياس, i.e. in a non-standard way. So I'm going to put something like non-standard. Yeah, I'll fix this later. And an alif lam is added to it. Otherwise, a person will not understand the word without analogy. It only makes sense to us if, we're used to reading this in Arabic and then we see it in English and we back translate it in our minds that, oh, he means ala ghayri qiyas. But otherwise, an English reader that will not mean something to him or her. It is also said its root is ilah with an alif and lam, from which. Okay. So the point is, the second opinion is the same in terms of the fact that it comes from ilah and al-ilah. The question is how you get from al-ilah to Allah. So I would say its root is actually talking about method of derivation. Okay, and I'm making these things yellow so I know that I did it, and then I can just sort of tidy up what I've inserted here. Because it's the same suggested derivation, it's just a different method to get from the word al-ilah to the word Allah, in which the hamza is removed again, and its voweling transferred to the lam, just as it is in al-ard, said in the Medina pronunciation, evidence in the Qur'an recitation of Imam Nafi as al-ard. Well, okay, so this is an intervention really by the translator, but maybe again it sort of should be in a footnote. I would say this should be a footnote because that's quite a long bracket. It's quite a long bracket. Right. And it's like, so that the two lambs are united and one of them is assimilated into the other. It sounded like there was a discrepancy between the reading and the text. Fajtama'a. I didn't catch what the reader said. Sheikh Amr. The two lambs are united, one of them is assimilated into the other and is given an emphatic assimilated pronunciation. Oh wow. This kind of stuff, you know, it doesn't look nice in the main text, you know, like ball. Moreover, emphatic assimilated pronunciation, there are better words for this. We're talking about tafkhim. فأدغمت إحداهما في الأخرى وفخم للتعظيم إلا إذا كان قبله كسرة. In our print of the text, this is clearly a separate point. Maybe the one they're using, it feels like the same point. But I'm going to follow our text. An emphatic is a word used for tafkhim. There's no need to say assimilated. 15. Did I insert this footnote? Emphatic pronunciation, or it is velarized. Okay, is the other way to put this? For exaltation. Hopefully that's clear. I don't know. Unless there is a preceding kasra, I will before it. I think it would be helpful to give examples of that. Because we're talking about things like lillah, billah, or baytillah, something like this. 8th, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay.
فخم للتعظيم إلا إذا كان قبله كسرة. الثامنة الرحمن الرحيم صفتان من الرحمة ومعناهما الإحسان، فهي صفة فعل، وقيل إرادة الإحسان فهي صفة ذات.
Okay, so the attribute of Rahmah, two attributes. Okay, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim here are described as attributes, sifatan, rather than as isman. I will just go with this. Are two attributes derived from Rahmah, meaning, so both of them have the meaning, therefore, of doing good, good treatment and excellence. So there's an attribute of action. So divine ihsan is then expressed as Rahmah. But it has also been said that is the will to good treatment, which is an attribute of, which is therefore an attribute of essence. Let's clean this up a little bit, because the second opinion is that it's not referring to the ihsan itself, but to iradatul ihsan. It has also been said that it refers to the will, and we'll make this bold or something, the will to good treatment. So it is an attribute of essence. I expect there's going to be some kalam on this, pun intended. Right, yes. So we're going to see in this book that there are comments from Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Barrak. I'm just having a quick skim of what he says. I have in my printed text here, it might be easier. Yeah, he's giving some response to this and quoting Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. We're not going to be overly concerned with these comments. Our purpose is to read Ibn Juzayy and to see what is his point of view. As for to's and fro's and debates and so on, you can follow up if you're interested in reading this. If I find that there's something in Sheikh al-Barrak's comments or anyone else's comments that we come across that would help us in our understanding and is worth mentioning, I will try to do so, inshallah. But I don't want to get caught up in these things. But we're just we're looking at what Ibn Juzayy said and how we translate it effectively. Now, normally, if you've got idafa, the standard is to put a T here, but I'll have to check their style sheet to see if that's something that they're supposed to be following. The publisher of this eventually will be Turath Publishing, inshallah. So we can consult with them what they want. Right, we're going to be finishing just after doing the Basmalah, and the next session, inshallah, we'll do the Fatiha, just so that we don't overburden in this first session, inshallah.
التاسعة الفرق بين الرحمن والرحيم على ما روي عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن الرحمن في الدنيا والآخرة والرحيم في الآخرة. وقيل الرحمن عام في رحمة المؤمنين والكافرين، والرحيم خاص بالمؤمنين لقوله وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. فالرحمن أعم وأبلغ، وقيل الرحيم أبلغ لوقوعه بعده على طريقة الارتقاء إلى الأعلى.
So that's quite a nice translation of ablagh. I mean, ablagh kind of literally can be taken as far-reaching. Typically, we would translate ablagh as something that's more emphatic or stronger in meaning. But you know, I don't see a need to interfere with what they've written here. So Ar-Rahman is said to be ablagh, or Ar-Rahim is ablagh because it comes after Ar-Rahman in the manner of ascending from the lower to the higher. Okay, so many people won't appreciate that that's a point that is noted in Arabic usage, that typically when they are mentioning a string of sifat, they would mention the lowest of them first, and then they would go up and up. They wouldn't mention the top description and then go down and down. So does that just come through in the translation? It has also been said, لوقوع بعده على طريقة الارتقاء إلى الأعلى. You could infer that anyway from reading this translation, or we can put a footnote. I think we need a footnote. So we're going to say something about Arab usage. Okay, just to make clear that that's something particular to Arab speech and might not be true of other cultures and other languages.
العاشرة إنما قدم الرحمن لوجهين اختصاصه بالله وجريانه مجرى الأسماء التي ليست بالصفات.
Okay. Ar-Rahman has been given precedence. Now this is to do with why Ar-Rahman is mentioned before Ar-Rahim. I think given precedence just might be slightly ambiguous and unclear. Maybe just go for a more direct expression, which is mentioned first, for two reasons. Because it is exclusively used for Allah. Okay, so that would mean it should be mentioned first, and that is some kind of precedence or priority, maybe. Footnote. Okay. And because of its following the course of nouns which are not attributes. I think we can improve on this, okay? وَجَرَيَانِهِ مَجْرَى الْأَسْمَاءِ الَّتِي لَيْسَتْ بِصِفَاتٍ. So following the course is very literal, not very clear in translation. It's something like its resemblance to. Something like to proper nouns, which are not attributes. And just to make that a little bit simpler, I've taken the same point, made it earlier. I'm going to, reconsider that expression as well. The point here is that it is being treated like a proper name rather than a name denoting the attribute of Rahman. So if we think of the ayah, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ, So there, the word Allah is of course a proper name. It doesn't need to be thought of as denoting his attributes, although it can also be said to denote all his attributes, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ar-Rahman is put next to it as if that has a similar kind of standing and status. And you can find Ar-Rahman used in the Qur'an in so many places where it doesn't seem to be denoting Rahmah. It's all the way through Surat Maryam, for example. And even sometimes the word Ar-Rahman is used in a context where adhab is being spoken of. So in that way, it is treated like and seems to be used as a name which is not denoting an attribute. So that's why he's saying it could be next to the name Allah. That's one way of looking at it, or that it is mentioned almost like Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. I'm not sure this is his point, but Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim then is almost like Ar-Rahman is still a proper name and Ar-Rahim is a sifa, which would then be describing the proper name. Wallahu a'lam. Anyway, there's a lot of views and opinions about these things, which we'll not get into. So what we'll do for now, we'll pause, allow you to digest this and make sense of it. And inshallah, next time we go straight on to Surah Al-Quran. We may use this printed text if it seems useful and appropriate to do so, or we may use the electronic text. So we're still experimenting and tweaking. If you have comments that can help improve this experience for you, then by all means send them our way, inshallah. And we'll do our best to take on board feedback, bearing in mind that there's more than 200 of you currently with us, and we might not be able to match everyone's tastes or everyone's preferences, but any constructive suggestions are welcome. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.